Thank you, Ashraf. Okay. Is that working? Okay, good. Good morning, everyone. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, one God, amen. Has anyone seen this before, the James Webb Telescope? This is a little bit nerdy, but I wanted to start with this. I've been enamored by these images from this telescope. So this telescope was built, it took 30 years to build this telescope. It launched in 2021. And that image in the upper left-hand corner is from 13 billion light years away. So this is an image from when the universe was created, essentially. The universe was very young at this time. And then the image down below it is a galaxy. So every one of those little circles is a galaxy. And then each one of those galaxies is made up of, if you look at every little section of it, you'll find that's an image of 50,000 stars. So this telescope is pointed in one direction, and the size of the aperture is about a grain of sand. So it's just looking in one section, 15 billion light years away. And recently I was over a congregant's house a couple weeks ago. I won't say his name so I don't embarrass him, but he has this beautiful fish tank. And he was looking inside with me, and he was showing me all of these amazing coral reef that were alive and all these beautiful fish. And he said something I never thought about. He said, "This is the humility of God." He places beauty everywhere, even if we don't see it. So under the ocean, where we may or may not even go, there's beauty. It's like spread lavishly all over the place. And this is the humility of God, he said. And so I'm looking at this stuff today with you all. This is a quick reflection, in the hoopla of Christmas, with the Grinch and all the fun stuff that we see. What we actually believe is that the spirit of the creator of this universe came down and dwelt in the womb of a young girl 2,000 years ago and was born and became a man and visited us, right? So God visits us and he reveals himself to us to show us what he's like, right? He didn't come as a wealthy businessman or an athlete or something beautiful, or like we say that he took the form of a servant and he made himself of no reputation. So what did God reveal to us about himself? Who is he? Who is the master of this incredible universe? This is Santa taking an Elfie. And I thought I wanted to put this up for Ashraf if he could give us a quick meditation. So this is the front of the Christmas tree where we put all the beautiful ornaments. And the back, that's all right, we'll skip this slide. So St. Isaac the Syrian says, "Humility is the garment of God. In it he clothed himself when he became a man." So like I said earlier, he didn't clothe himself in beauty or in power or the things of this world. He came as a poor working man. This is a man with dirt in his fingers, right? He was a carpenter, a vagabond. Eventually he was roaming most of Palestine at the time, looking for a place to live. He says, "Foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." So this is the great paradox and mystery of Christmas, right? That the creator of the universe came and visited us as a nobody, essentially. And this is our belief. And of all of the instructions that Christ gave us when he approached us this way in gentleness as a baby, later on in his ministry he instructs us and he says, "Learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart." So he stressed this particular virtue, right? God has all of the virtues. He could have said, "Learn from me, for I am wise and intelligent Learn from me, for I am a lot of things. But he said, learn from me, for I am meek and humble of heart. And so this word meekness, wait, hold on. We had another one here. This is post-COVID. Santa's reindeers want to work from home. Okay, we'll skip that one too. So this word meekness, I never knew what it meant, honestly. I never really dug in. I kind of just read over it for many years. So at the tender age of 45, I'm learning what the word meekness means. How many of you guys grew up with just like lots of screaming and yelling in your house? And so meekness is like the antithesis of that. It's this idea of calmness. It's this idea of emotion under control, right? It's really not weakness, right? It's like the opposite of weakness. It's divine strength. It's strength that's hidden in gentleness. And this is the message of Christmas. It's the virtue that allows us to have peace over our feelings, over our passions. So describing a meek person, in general, a meek person is a calm person. They're peaceful, they're under control, they're unshakable. This is a person that's measured in the words that they use, in their approach to others. They're kind. A meek person is a kind person. So we use these words interchangeably, actually. People call someone kind, and what they mean is meek. You find a meek person to be joyful, to be smiley, to be happy. This is a person who's in peace with others. Dealing with this person is easy. This is a flexible person. They're firm in their belief, but they're flexible in dealing with other people. In other words, what movie are we going to watch? What are we going to eat? A business transaction. Any dealing is very easy with a meek person. This is not a difficult person. He's well-liked. He or she is well-liked. We say that the meek inherit the earth. So this is a well-liked person. And it's the single virtue, like I said before, that makes you resemble Christ. The single most important virtue that also attracts other people to Christ through you. So just going through some meek qualities. A meek person is very complimentary to other people. It's extremely encouraging to people. A nice word or a compliment comes often from a meek person. There are families that are absolutely miserable because of this idea of not being able to encourage each other. There are people and friends who sit around and essentially think of the worst part of you and shine a light on it, right? This is not meekness, right? Meekness is encouraging people. Everyone needs a compliment and a nice word. Everybody needs a compliment and a nice word. And you have to mean it when you say it. This makes you meek when you do this. By the way, these qualities I took from an Arabic sermon from Abuna Dawood Lamai, who many of you know. His Arabic is a little simpler than other of his contemporaries, but so the things that I'm listing are not my own by any means. This is all plagiarized. But encouraging others, finding the good in others, empowering others. If you think about Christ's ministry, how empowering he was to the underdogs of society. He literally took the fishermen and the poor people and the worst of his generation, the worst in his society, the tax collectors, and he empowered them. Empowering others who are less talented than you, that is to be like Christ. A meek person is a really good listener. It's not something we do anymore because everyone wants to talk first and talk for a long time, which we'll get to. Communicating is not even something we do in person anymore, unfortunately. We do it via text. We do it we do it in ways that are not natural anymore. The human interaction is missing. So you lose a lot in the digital realm. And it's why a lot of fights and misunderstandings happen via text, via email. I've gotten myself into a lot of trouble via text, via email. And being a good listener requires you to keep your mouth shut and listen and process. It also requires you to have nonverbal communication that's powerful, making eye contact, putting your hands on someone's shoulder. As a physician, when I see a patient and like I'm fully vested in that moment with them and I put my arm on their shoulder, like just a small touch on their leg while they're talking, it makes a big, big difference. And we need to think about this in our communication with each other. Another meek quality is empathy, so feeling for others. Romans chapter 12 says, rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep. One step further is being able to cry with someone. This is really the height of meekness. I don't have this gift. There's a story of a priest who goes to visit a mother who loses a child. And as soon as the priest comes in, he looks at the picture of the child and he just starts weeping. And this woman had been far away from the church and had given up and was really in a depressed state. And actually, she's the one who tells this story to the priest that gave this talk. And she said, for the first time I felt comforted. This priest that didn't know me came to visit me. He looked at a picture of my son and began to weep, and he really felt what I was feeling. To feel for somebody, to feel their pain. This isn't something we can get ChatGPT to do. This is not something a computer can do for us. This is next level human empathy, and that is a big part of meekness. Okay, a meek person is constantly in defense of others. So a meek person is not someone who sits around and gossips. They don't put energy into any type of denigration of others. On the contrary, they defend people. They defend the person who's not in the room. Abuna Daoud gives a really great practical tip here I'm going to share with you guys. So if you're ever sitting in a group and somebody's being, gossiped about, and instead of like trying to silence the people who are gossiping, just admit that you're the same as that person. So, such and such person is a liar. Oh my gosh, this person, you can jump in and be like, I'm a liar too. You know what? I do that. I often do that. Standing up for the person that's not in the room is a real powerful thing to do. It teaches the people that are gossiping in a way that's, it's not hurtful to them, but in a way that also recognizes that we're all weak. And maybe the person that we're talking about is going through something. Maybe we should say something about what they're going through instead of judging them. Being merciful to other people, giving people a second chance, not writing them off. A beautiful story in the Gospels when Christ met the disciples in Galilee. They were on a boat fishing. This is after the resurrection. And they see him from afar off. And Peter had denied him 3 times, right? Before the crucifixion. And Peter just jumps in the water, right? So they're going to shore, they're on a boat, and he sees him. And I think, don't quote me on this, I think he's embarrassed. I think he doesn't know what to do with himself. So they go to shore, Peter jumps in the water, they sit down. Christ had made a breakfast for them of honeycomb and some fish. And they sit down by the fire. Peter's dripping wet, I'm sure. And I'm just imagining how he felt in that moment. And Christ 3 times asks him if he loves him. He says, Peter, do you love me? Peter, do you love me? 3 times he said it to him. Essentially encouraging him to become Peter, to become the great Saint Peter. So being merciful to people, giving them a second chance, this is true meekness. This was what Christ did. This is what Christ does for all of us. So of all the gifts that our Creator gave us, the one that uniquely makes us human is speech. And so speech is a very special gift. It can be the cause of our salvation or the cause of all of our problems. And again, I said at the tender age of 45, I'm learning how to speak now. By your words you are justified, and by your words you are judged. And every word that we say comes from the heart. Today, during communion, we chanted, my heart and my tongue, right? So like, my heart, what comes out of my heart comes out of my mouth. And we say, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So the heart and mouth are very much connected. So the sins of speaking are not only sins of the mouth, they're sins of what's inside of your heart. And they reveal who you are inside. There's no more telling way to understand who somebody is than the words that they use. We say a righteous man from the treasures of his heart produces good, and a deceitful man from his deceit produces deceit. Something like that. Okay, so the heart and the mouth are connected. I'm going to read what James says about this because it's hard to paraphrase, so it's better to just read it. This is the only long, wordy slide, guys. I'm sorry. So you just bear with me. So he says, if anyone does not stumble in word, he's a perfect man, able also to bridle the whole body. Indeed, we put bits in horses' mouths that they may obey us, and we turn their whole body. Look also at ships. They are so large and driven by fierce winds that they are turned by a very small rudder. Even so the tongue is. For every kind of beast and bird, of reptile and creature of the sea is tamed, and has been tamed by mankind. But no man can tame the tongue. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. With it we bless our God and Father, and with it we curse men who have been made in the image of God. Okay, so when to speak and when not to speak. So we know that silence is a virtue, but not all silence is virtuous. Not all speaking is virtuous, of course. The psalmist says, place an angel to my mouth, O Lord, and a guard to the door of my lips. But despite all that, quietness by itself is not the answer. Quietness can be a sin. And we can be judged by remaining quiet. One of the fathers says we are often judged by our words, but cannot be judged by our silence. But can also be judged by our silence, excuse me. So silence can also be wrong. Another one of the desert fathers was asked, when is it better to speak or to remain silent? He said, there's a time for silence and a time for speaking. That's from Solomon. And a wise person knows when to speak and when not to speak. So if you speak for the sake of God, that is good. If you're silent for the sake of God, that is good. Silence can be cowardice. It can be fear. It can be shame. What if someone is being wrongfully treated and we remain silent? This is cowardice. What if someone who's depressed needs a kind word and they're lashing out at you and you give them the silent treatment? What if you're a parent who's unwilling to correct your child because you're worried about their feelings? So not all silence is a virtue. Silence for the sake of avoiding sin is a virtue, but there's a type of speech that's even more virtuous than silence. It's called righteous speaking or virtuous speaking. So there's levels to this. So there's sinful speech, that's the lowest level. There's good silence to avoid saying the wrong thing. But if we're able to reach this level, the best thing is to be able to speak virtuously and know when to speak and when the right time to speak is. So if you're silent in order to abstain from sinful dialogue, that's kind of like step one. But God gave us speech not to sin against one another, but not also to completely keep our mouths shut. He gave us speech to glorify him for the benefit of others and for loving others. So how do we put this into practice? The first is to remain silent so the other person can speak. We use silence as a virtue to process information. Silence is a virtue when you're using it to avoid being reactive. So the silent person that remains silent is doing it to not react. They're also doing it to pray on the inside, right? Like in an argument with somebody or in a moment where you're trying to understand what to say next. Silence is a virtue when you use that moment to process, to listen, to avoid reacting, to pray. And after you've done all that, if you've gotten the right words, if you've learned how to speak, then and only then use the right words. Christ spoke often, and his words were spirit and life. Christ spoke, and his words drew out multitudes of people. Christ spoke, and the people said, "We've never heard anyone speak this way before." So words can be beautiful, they can be powerful, they can be deep, they can be useful, but they can also be destructive and ugly and useless and idle. And the righteous person knows what's acceptable and ponders how to answer. These are both Proverbs. So when is silence not a virtue? Giving somebody the silent treatment, like I said before. Using silence to provoke or make somebody even more angry. Maybe when you don't respond to an angry person, you're ignoring them and you're making them worse spiritually and emotionally and psychologically. What if you respond to an angry person with gentleness and kindness? What if you told a soft, funny, simple joke to break the ice? This requires wisdom. This is not easy. What if with meekness and humility you complimented somebody and then disarmed them with kindness? I was in my parking lot at work, this was a few months ago, and I almost got run over by a guy in a giant, he's like in a huge pickup truck. I won't tell you what kind of flag he had in his pickup truck. But anyway, angry. And he was angry at me, and he almost ran me over. I was just crossing the street. And he like kind of pulled, and he kind of like threw his hands up like ready to fight me for almost killing me. And honestly, I think 10 years ago I would have gotten into a fight. And I'm not saying that I've like achieved a different level of meekness or any of this stuff. But I'm saying that in that moment I had a choice, and my answer to him actually embarrassed him. I made him roll down his window. I'm like, "Can you please slow down, man? That was really, you're gonna hurt somebody." And the guy apologized to me. The guy actually, I don't know, he had a moment. So a soft answer turns away anger. What if you respond to an angry person, or what if you don't respond to an angry person and you stay silent and you think silence is a virtue, and you continue to build virtues based on these false ideas of virtuosity, let's call it. Don't build your virtues on the backs of others. That's something that Pope Shenouda used to say. Don't build your virtues on the backs of others. Silence to dismiss or ignore somebody or to anger them is something we need to be careful with. So, when you do speak, how should you speak? Okay, let's go with brevity. This is one I'm learning. The person who speaks too much does not have a chance to listen. It's very simple. In the midst of many words, a lot of information comes out. A lot of the wrong words can be said. A lot of words are misinterpreted. So say less. Some people who talk too much can give a very long explanation of things. They can repeat themselves multiple times and then just lose the person that's listening. I'm guilty of this. We could say what we want in a couple sentences. Some people talk and have no point at all. They just talk, just give you a headache. You ask them for the punchline, and they give you the punchline, and then they say, hold on, wait. Let me explain to you why the thing. She's laughing a little extra hard, man. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. You can talk and talk, and very little meaning comes out. So why is it often that people regret even speaking to begin with? Because the words that come out of your mouth never go back in. They come out, they register in the person's head, they affect that person. If it's in writing, it's even worse. It's in a text or an email. Now you have proof. You said this. So it's really important for us to measure our words first. Okay. I already talked about the problem with excessive talking. Is like long explanations, you miss the point. And then you're talking, I'm doing it right now, you're talking without meaning or value, so we'll move to the next. Valuing people's time and respecting people's time. So, I had a family member who was going through something a long time ago, but this person would call me and not stop. Just call me. It didn't matter what time of day it was. Okay? I'm on the East Coast. You're on the West Coast, doesn't matter. I'm calling you. This is what I went to sleep with. This is what I was thinking about last night. This is what I woke up with. You need to hear what I have to say. I don't care if you have people over. This is a type of disrespect, right? Like we have to be able to know whether or not we are that person, right? In the prayer after communion, we say those things that we commit knowingly and unknowingly. Am I unknowingly doing this? Am I talking to somebody about something that they don't want to hear? Showing respect for people's time and energy is really, really important, and it's part of meekness. Okay, this is a really good one. So strong opinions without knowledge. Speaking confidently on topics that are not understood. You find people who speak for a long time and they're not experts and they don't really know or quite understand the topic to begin with. Discussion on Ukraine, let's jump in. Let me give you my opinion on vaccines because, I'm an infectious disease specialist. But I'm not, by the way. This is very common. This is common online. This is common in group settings, in family settings. Medicine, geopolitics, coral reefs, renewable energy, whatever comes up, I have an opinion, and there's no humility to deferring to experts. And actually, the irony is that the more you become an expert on a topic, the more you realize you know nothing. I go to I listen to a lecture in dermatology. I'm a dermatologist. And then I realize, oh my gosh, man, I have 2 board certifications, and I haven't even gotten into the weeds yet. So humility and meekness requires an understanding of whether or not you're an expert on something. And even if you're an expert, this is strong opinions with knowledge. Even when you're well-versed on a topic, you need to have humility. Or else you can just start speaking and condescending people. So if Peter feels like it, he can stand up right now and say, I published a paper on retinal detachments, and I want to talk to you guys about retinal detachments for 3 hours. And I want to pat myself on the back in front of others. Being boastful versus crediting other people. So one of the people that works for me now, she's the CEO of one of the businesses I'm involved with. And very often, she's giving credit to everybody around her. I really respect and love this. So she'll say, without so-and-so person, we wouldn't have never been able to do this. And she's the one who originated the idea. But she's like, without your involvement, we wouldn't have been able to get this account or whatever. It's really great to boast on other people's behalf and credit others and not do this to yourself. Okay, timing and audience. I think I said this before, but like, don't speak to somebody who's not ready to listen. Maybe the person is exhausted or sick or emotionally unwell. You can throw a little pebble and see, like, are they ready for this conversation? Be mindful of others. Be mindful about baiting people into conversations they don't want to have. Depending on which side of the family I'm hanging out with, one family thinks I'm a liberal Democrat. The other family thinks I'm like a hard right Republican. And like they'll cast these little, baits to see if I take the bait. And a lot of those conversations are unwanted. Like, I don't want to talk about this. So being aware of whether the audience wants to talk about this or not. Emotional dumping, I already talked about that. Let's see. Speaking in groups. So some people dominate conversations in groups, right? This person just sucks the energy out of the room. Being mindful. Are you that person? Am I that person? This is the first person that speaks. This is the first person that gives an opinion. This is the first person that wants to tell you their experience or their problem or their issue. This is the person who wants you to focus on all of their success. I'm doing this, and next week I'm doing that. They don't listen. They don't listen. So, something to be aware of. Interestingly, the last person who speaks in the room is the person everybody wants to hear from, right? It's usually how it goes. Everybody has said something, and then, Mark hasn't said anything, so we say, Mark, we want to hear from you. What's your opinion? It's nice to be that last person to speak, because it means you listen to everybody else. Okay. Be the last to speak. Give priority to the older and wiser. I didn't say this yet. There's an interesting character in Job. His name is, I'll tell you in Arabic. Barkhail ibn what? Something il-Buzi min ashirat Ram. I don't know, something like that in Arabic. Anyway, so this character in Job, he doesn't speak for like 36 chapters. And then he says at the end, he said, I was ashamed to speak because I was among my elders. And he goes on to like really go hard on his elders and say a lot of not nice things to them. But the point is, like, he waited and he respected that there were elders in the room and wiser people in the room. Respect, I already talked about this. Okay, so respect through speech. Don't interrupt or talk over others. Don't try to embarrass somebody or own the other person. Like, that's a new term, is owning somebody, right? Like, a lot of the stuff is done in the name of being Christian. A lot of the influencers and YouTubers and people who think they're being Christian, they love these really intense debates about like a pointed issue, and then they want to show how they really got that guy, like I really made him look stupid. And it's how you get more clicks and how you get more comments and how you get more followers. And of course, this has nothing to do with our belief, right? In fact, some people have the gift of making you know what their opinion is and even changing your mind on an issue without even you realizing that they're in an argument with you. They'll say something like, oh, that point you made, that was really, really good. And this point you made was, and I agree with you on all of these things. The one little thing I have a question, they're not even saying like, I disagree with you on this thing. They're saying, the one area I had a question with you about, or like this one thing that we may have a difference of a point of view. See the words? And then all of a sudden they're convincing the other person and they walk away in the spirit of just conversation, convincing the other person of their original point. So embarrassing or owning others is not meekness. Don't sigh, don't roll your eyes, don't tap your feet. This is all first grade level stuff, but I think it's stuff that we all need to think about. Giving the person your full attention, putting away your cell phone, your devices, letting the other person finish before you respond, checking for understanding, paraphrase what the other person just said to you, repeat back what they said, make sure you understand it correctly. Nodding, making eye contact, using body language that's not hurtful. I said this already, it's no longer about the issue. The debate is now about who wins. It's about victory. Meekness seeks understanding, right? A meek person, a humble person, wants to understand the topic. They don't just want to win the argument. Okay. I think what we can do is probably listening is meekness. I think I said all this. Maybe open it up for conversation. Anybody? Ashraf was asleep? Awake now? Okay. Me, silence. Oh, Elena. Yes. What's the punchline? That was good. You got me. You got me. A lot of words. I used a lot of words in this non-meek talk. Yes, sir. Say again? Sure. I'm actually a YouTube influencer. I didn't mention that part. Yeah, you can follow me, comment down below, and like and subscribe. Yep. All right. Anyone? You got anything to say, young man? Okay. All right. Say a quick prayer. Oh Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully, our Father who art in heaven.